So this is where it all started. In 2008, I quit my job and mortgaged my house and started Inside U from scratch. And this is the building that we purchased and renovated. I looked at a lot of different options in Woodstock, and there was either I had to lease a building in a plaza, which would cost me about $50,000 a year, and they were asking for 5-year lease, minimum 5-year lease, preferably 10 years, and it was just a lot of money to throw down the drain without knowing if anybody would ever show up. So we bought this property, and it took about 1.5 years to convert it into a commercial property and put an addition on it. And just want to show you today some of the things we had to go through to do it. Okay, let's go inside and check out the inside. So
I really hope that looks cool.
So this building here, we took off. In the old building, we took the roof off right up to the old building. We took this whole roof off, and we put a 20 by 20 square foot addition on the back. The old building was about here. There was like a kind of a small lean-to. This wall was about this high. Came up to about here. This was the back of the old building, right where we're standing. There was like a little kitchen here. These walls came through, and this was the living room, and it had a furnace here. And then you opened the back door of the old house, and there was a mud room, and then there was a rickety old deck that we had to rip off too. So we ripped off a mud room, a deck, and then finished the whole backyard, turned it into a parking lot. So as we filled the building up, we just needed more and more space. So I used to have the computer servers on the other side of the wall. What I did is I just put this board down, hung some shelves up, and this is where, this was our server room. We had all our computers here, the terminals here. If the internet went down, we had to go run downstairs, grab this board from the basement, put it up, come out here. And we had actually had it one time where all these shelves came crashing down with all the routers and the modems, and yeah, we thought somebody broke a leg back here. So when we were digging this basement out, we actually hit water, and the bank started caving in a little bit. So I decided not to go any deeper, and that's why it's like just barely room to stand in here. This whole area is actually a swamp, and there's a lot of water in the ground, and so our sump pump is kind of always going. And yeah, I just didn't want to bring the neighbor's shed down and collapse it in the hole. When we put this build, and we put a brand new furnace in here. Took out the old furnace, put a brand new furnace in the building, and new ductwork. We also, on the back hand here, we had to put an HVAC unit. So this is a commercial air exchange unit. It's basically never been used, but in order to bring the building up to code, commercial code, we had to put this unit in. This is an old building, so there's lots of airflow in old buildings, and we really just didn't need this huge unit cycling air in and out. Okay. So here,
One second. Yeah, doing some cool B-roll.
Yeah. Okay, you can give me taking the coat off here. So I'm going to show you the old crawl space now. So the back of the old building is right over here, and I'll just turn my light on here and turn some lights on over here. So this is where the back of the old building was, and we had to tie into the building. And turn on a light. One. And then there's also another one here. And this is the old stairwell. Alright. Should be illegal to build a building with a crawl space. That's my opinion, after working down here for a while. So when we we purchased this building. It wasn't in good shape, but we figured out a way that we could support it with some more posts and beams and bring it up to code. So the air was damp down here, so we sealed the basement with plastic. We insulated the walls and put some more some more vent work down here and circulated the air so that it would be good for a while. In the background here, you see some new wood, some new beams. We basically had to put about 15 new posts and beams down here, and then I put concrete footings underneath them. So the concrete came in through the windowsill, and I had to like wheel it hunched over like this with a wheelbarrow. So I had to come down here. It took a couple months, but I just do like half an hour at a time until your back starts hurting, and then do some more the next day. So come on back here. So here you can see posts that we had to put in, beams that we had to put in to support the old building. On the other side here, stud wall that I had to frame in, and I cut all these boards in, frame it in, and then to get somebody to spray it in afterwards, spray foam it in afterwards to seal it up nicely. There was there's sump pump in here that sometimes didn't turn on by itself, so I get a little bit of water down here once in a while. And then there's other things that come along. After a year, we realized, well, we put a dishwasher in one time. When we made a lunchroom upstairs, we put a dishwasher in. And within, I'd say like 2 months, the racks on the dishwasher wouldn't come out. So, because the Woodstock water is really hard, so we put a water softener in. And then there's also a thing called a backflow preventer. City comes in and installs to make sure that the water doesn't flow back into the city. Wastewater doesn't flow back in, so they come in, they check that every year as well, but I had no idea how to do that. Okay. That is how big the old stairs was. So this is the upstairs of the old house. As you can see, it's a story and a half and not really big enough to use for office space, and the stairs very, very small, skinny stairs. But at one point, about 2013, we decided to try out colonics, which is basically a therapy where you flush your colon out with water. So we bought a machine and we did some renovations in this room, and we hung up a little curtain here, and you can come here for a couple years and get your butt flushed out with water. So in order to make that happen, we had to do some things. The machine was actually too tall for the ceiling, so we had to rip the ceiling apart, frame it up a little higher. We put plumbing in. You can still see the holes from the plumbing where the machine was, and there was a table here, and so you would have to, if anybody's never done it before, it's a little uncomfortable. You're inserting water into your colon, and it fills you up and then flushes you down, and you insert more and it fills you up, so it takes out a lot of, stuck on like hard fecal matter out of the inside of your colon, so you can absorb more nutrients. But then when you're done, you basically kind of have to race to the washroom and get out some extra water, because the machine never get all of it out. So it was kind of a little bit of a messy procedure, and we didn't really have the right building for it. So for the first few years, this was all boxes just laying around, and then we got busier. We needed more rooms, and we needed a lunchroom. So we put new flooring in here, painted the whole thing, put a little kitchen in with a sink, fridge, dishwasher. You always do stupid things though when you look back. Like I spent a little bit extra money, put this fancy concrete countertop in here where it really didn't need to. So you look back and you're like, oh, I could have saved a few $100s here and a few thousand over here, and you just, the best mistakes are the ones you pay for. You learn from them the most. So this is where the main checkout counter was the whole time we were here. This is where everything would happen for the first like 3 or 4 years. The main checkout counter is here. We had a little waiting room off to the side. I sat at this little desk here. See, the floor is all worn out. This was my office for basically 5 or 6 years. I'd do my work here, and if somebody came in, I would help them. So, okay. Then back here, we had this as a little waiting room. We had racks full of books here for the first few months. And then in the beginning, I was partnered with Danielle Van Wyk. And she just graduated as a nutritionist and as an allergist. So she would use this office here. Danielle would use this office here and to see her clients. And this just gave us a little bit more of a professional background because I had no experience in health. And if I had a question, then I could ask Danielle about it. But she just based her business out of this office for the first 4 or 5 years, and it just helped drive traffic to the store, and then people would come here and they need to pick up something in the store. It was a kind of a good way to get a little more traffic. You see the plugs on the wall. Basically, as we got busier, we just filled the space up with more and more shelves and fridges. So we had a glass door fridge here, just a 4-foot glass door fridge, and then we used 3 like White House freezers here. We had the thing right jammed. You can still see the marks on the floor from the freezer. Just the weight. We had one incident one time where the fridge was a little bit too cold to come in like on a Monday morning, and there was this much sludge in the bottom of the fridge. Goji berry juice and acai berry juice and yogurt and milk and a bunch of things. It's a real fun thing to clean up. So this room was a supplement room. Basically the whole 10 years that we were here. And I was just thinking back this morning to a time when, just before we opened. So I was entering all the products into the database, into her computers. And Danielle was opening orders, opening the boxes for the first time and putting the stuff on the shelf. And she had this room, basically there was boxes everywhere, there's shelves on the wall, and she was trying to pull all the vitamin C out and make a vitamin C section and make a vitamin D section, and I just couldn't figure out why it was taking so long. I just throw it up there, it'll be fine. And then that was one thing I remember about this room. And then there was also, we opened January 2nd, 2009, and apparently that morning I pulled Danielle aside about an hour before opening. We were ready to go, and I asked her, okay, can you just show me what some of this stuff is good for? And that was right here back in 2009 on the first day. I have a newspaper clip of Danielle and I standing right here, maybe I can find that, with background of progressive phytoberry supplements. So we're standing right here, and this is the picture we took on that went out in the newspaper the first couple of weeks that we opened. So then this is the front door of the old house. We never used it. We just boarded it up and put stuff in front of it. We wanted people coming in the side doors so we can keep track of them. In the beginning, I had a table here, just a 6-foot table. This is where I'd unpack all the product, and the product would come in on the table here and unpack it. You could see out the window. And after about 5 years, 6 years, I think, we built it all in. So there was always, for the last few years, there were shelves right in front here. You couldn't even see outside. But yeah, I would just work out in the open here. We had lots of room in the beginning. But this was all built-in shelves eventually afterwards. And then this area here, let me turn these lights on. This area here, as the store got busy, we needed a second checkout counter, so we built another checkout counter like right here basically. And so the front was busy, there'd be somebody back here helping somebody else at the counter. We kept all our special orders back here, and this little area here was where we received all the product. So we would get an order of like 15 boxes. They would sit like right here, up to here sometimes, and someone would be standing right here with a little table unpacking boxes. So that was from, year 2014, something like that. 2013, 2014. We did all the receiving here. And it got so busy that I actually had to lease another building in town, and then we moved 3 people. We moved the bookkeeping and the receiving and the purchasing to another building in town. We did it for 5 years and then brought everything over here. Every day we'd bring a truckload or a van load of stuff, of boxes over here, and still have to unpack them, but there would be just less paperwork and less people in a small space. So when we purchased this building, the gentleman that owned it was giving up selling it as a office building. So we put the shower in. I remember the first time I came in here, the guy was working in here tiling the shower, and he was hoping to sell it as a house again. So this shower is so bloody small you can't even bend over in it. And I think I used this twice or something, a bike to work and use it, and then it ended up being a closet. Oh yeah, that's me. Yeah, one of the things you don't think of is, or you learn over time, is that these kids always are like ripping off light bulbs and kicking them in. So what I did is I got a welder to create a cage basically, and dug a hole, and this cage is buried like 3 feet in the ground. And so in order to change this light bulb down here, you gotta dig this cage out. So I haven't lost a light in like 8 years. One of the most difficult things in Woodstock is finding parking, and it was very difficult for me to find a place where I could have enough parking spots that wouldn't cost too much at the beginning. So this building, we actually fixed up the backyard, put a parking lot in. There's only 5 parking spots, and I just remember year 3, 4, and 5, I was really concerned a lot of the times because we would run out of room for parking, and I thought about it a lot, like whether I should invest in a fancy sign that would count the cars going back in and out so you could tell when you're driving down the road, if there was an empty parking spot. But I never really could justify, doing that. So eventually what I did is we just hung up a couple signs like this, big, it said overflow parking across the road, and across the road, the College Ave Church, we just made an arrangement with them where I just donated money to them every year, and they allow us to use our parking lot, some extra overflow from the parking lot. So problem solved with a simple sign and a donation. Okay, so here you see the back of the old building, the addition that we put on, and this parking lot in the back here, apparently people told me before there used to be a big Dutch family that lived here, and they used to have weddings and things in the back, and people would come here to get their pictures taken. There was this beautiful flower gardens and stuff, and I did find a couple tulip bulbs in this growing beside the parking lot, but by the time we got it, there was no gardens left. It was just a bunch of grass with a little bit of holes in there. So we put 5 parking spots in here with the addition on the back, and yeah, while we were digging the hole, because of the water, it got a little dicey and we didn't go all the way down. But one of the things that did happen is we hit the neighbor's shed with a hi-ho, so I had to put some extra board and batten on the neighbor's shed. I do remember the neighbors coming over when they seen us putting in the parking lot, and they were quite worried. Apparently, since this is a whole flood zone, they've been flooded around like the mid-90s. At one point, there was 2 inches of water around their, 2 feet of water around their house. And so that would be kind of like up to the height of the parking lot here. So they were worried that by us building the parking lot up, they were going to get flooded out more often. And yeah. They couldn't really do anything at the time. They couldn't really complain to the city. I had all the permits and everything in order, so we got along with them after. I helped fix their fence a couple times, and you have to get along. The other neighbor here, let me keep my snowblower in his shed. So for 10 years I kept the snowblower in the shed, and I would blow out their driveway once in a while. For the first 2 years, I actually came out here and just shoveled this all by hand. It was gravel. Shoveled it all by hand every time, and then I got a snowblower after that. But I just took care of this myself. It was easy to do because we weren't really busy at the time. Are you coming in? So yeah, this has been about 11 years since we purchased this building. Seen there's a lot of people have come in. I was here first, the first one in. We did all these renovations, and I still remember the one time where I was shimming the floor here, and this was a couple months in, and the place is a mess. And at that point, we were setting up accounts with some of the sales reps, and I remember the one gentleman, his name was Jamie. He came in here at that point, and you wonder sometimes what went through people's heads when they're, when this kid is just like renovating this, random old house and gonna start a store here, and the place is just in shambles and not nowhere close to being done. You just wonder what people are thinking. Yeah, so it's been 10 years, and this is just a building, but this is where it started. And sometimes you would think when I was working here by myself in the morning, you would see, it's quiet, and then as the day goes on, 9 o'clock, some one person shows up, and then slowly more and more and more, and the place is busy, and then you close the doors at night, and it's just a building, just some products on the shelf. But it's the people that make it special. And now it's been 5 months since we moved across town to a different location. It's December 2019, so almost 11 years since we opened. And this building is once again empty, and in 2 days we lose possession. We hand over the keys to the lawyers, and 2 days from now somebody else comes in and uses this space, and we've moved on. We've used it, and it's been good to us. Good starting home for Inside You.